Chiku from Chiku Study Corner, and today I'll be dealing with Surface Chemistry Part 4. So, if you haven't watched the previous parts, make sure you watch it and then continue watching. I'll be uploading notes in my description. Please go download it and read it for better understanding. So, let's get into the chapter. So, now I'll be teaching you about the methods of preparation of colloids. So, we learned there are two types of colloids, no? We learned many classification. The classification based on the interaction between the particles were of two types. Lyophilic, lyophobic. So, over here I told you lyophilic colloids can be recreated by simple mixing. Okay, that is because of their reversible nature. Examples for lyophilic are albumin in water, that is egg white, or starch in water, gum, etc. So we'll now learn about over here there's simple mixing. Okay, simple mixing. But over here there are special chemical reactions. So now we'll learn about these special chemical reactions. Okay. The first one is Briggs arc method. So this is the setup. So I'll explain the setup. This is an electrode. These are the So the first method of preparation of lyophobic colloids is Briggs arc method. So let's learn about it. So for Briggs arc method, it is used for making what? Colloids of copper, or that is gold, silver, platinum, etc. So how do you make a metal into a colloid? First, you take two metal rods and it is immersed in a dispersion medium. So this is the dispersion phase and this is the dispersion medium. The dispersion medium is usually water. Okay, it's after the dispersion medium and the dispersion phase is kept in contact. So the first method of preparation of lyophobic colloids is Briggs arc method. So let's see. So over here, what is it? This is used for what? Making colloids of copper, silver, gold, platinum, etc. Okay. So over here, it's two metal rods dipped in electrolyte. Okay, dipped in what? The dispersion medium. Over here it's water. Usually it's taken as water. So, and after dipping this is kept in a container, no? That container is in turn kept in ice. Okay? This is ice. Okay? This blue color thing is ice. This whole setup is called ice bath. Okay? So this is how it is kept. And then high voltage supply is given to the two electrons. And then what will happen? The two metal, the high voltage will form a electrical arc between the electrodes. So when there is high electrical arc, what happens? There is temperature. Due to the high heat, this metal vaporizes, and when it vaporizes, it will vaporize and go and quickly it will condense. As it vapors, it will vaporize. The metal will vaporize, and then same time it will condense also. And forming this condensed materials will come and fall into the water, making it a colloidal solution. Okay, a colloid. Okay, This is the first method. The second method we have to learn is peptization. So let's learn about peptization. Second process is peptization. So that is the second way of preparing lyophobic colloids. So let's see what is peptization. So peptization is like converting freshly prepared precipitate to a colloid or to a colloidal solution by adding a peptizing agent. The peptizing agent is the electrolyte. Okay. So let's see what is like we'll see an example. So I'm taking FeOH thrice. Okay, this is a precipitate, freshly prepared precipitate, and I'm adding an electrolyte which has a common ion in it. Okay, like now if you take let's see which all ions are there for FeOH thrice. FeOH thrice. It has two ions, that is Fe3 plus and OH minus, isn't it? So we'll see about it. So over here first let's take Fe itself. What is a electrolyte that contains Fe? We'll take FeCl3. So over here we'll write FeCl3. Okay, and what happens is that when this electrolyte or peptizing agent is added, this common ion gets absorbed. Okay, the common ion gets absorbed, and then what it will do? It will, since there is positive charges or since there is negative charges, accumulation of charges on the surface of each molecule, these will disintegrate. I will show you the example so you'll understand it better. So over here it is like this, FeCl3. So which is a common ion over here? Fe. So Fe will get absorbed. So we will write it as FeOH thrice slash what is this? Fe. And I told you there is charges. What is the charge of Fe? Fe is 3 plus. So there is a positive charge over there. So this, as a result of peptization, we get two types of colloids. Positive colloids and negative colloids. So from this, what do you think this colloid is? There is a plus over here. So this is a positive colloid. Okay. Now let's take with the OH minus. Okay. So this is the same example, FeOH thrice plus what is you can take NaOH, KOH, etc. I'm taking KOH. KOH gives what? FeOH thrice slash OH minus, isn't it? So what is this? What is this kind of colloid? This is a negative colloid. Now I'll show the representation and I'll show you how this compound, why is there a disintegration. So let's see. So we are taking the same molecule, that's why I'm not rubbing this. So let's see about it. Okay, these are FeOH thrice. Everything is FeOH thrice, okay? When this peptizing agent, that is over here, when we'll take the first example, FeCl3 is added, what will it happen to? It will split to, what will it be? FeOH thrice is over here. And I told you there is accumulation of charges. This gets, the common ion gets absorbed, okay? So this is common, this is positive. So this will get absorbed on the surface. Absorption happens in the surface, no? So over here it will get absorbed. So what will happen? It is positive charges getting absorbed over here. The same way, there is FeOH thrice, FeOH thrice. Everything has positive charges around it, okay? Did we learn something known as a property of a charge? Like charges repel, unlike charges attract. What is this positive charges? These are all like charges. So these will move away. Since we know a precipitate is bigger than a colloid, the particle size of a precipitate is bigger than a colloid. So when it disintegrates, it will come to the colloidal dimension, that is 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer particle size. Okay. So this is the example for peptidization. So next we have to learn about the chemical reactions. What are I told you there are some more chemical reactions that takes place for the formation or for the creation of colloids. So let's see that. So now the next method is biochemical reaction. So there is 4 chemical reactions that you have to learn. The first one is how do you obtain FeOH thrice. Okay. So we will see that. That is FeCl3 plus 3H2O. When H2O comes, what is this? This reaction is hydrolysis. So by doing hydrolysis of FeCl3, you will get FeOH thrice plus 3HCl. So this is the first equation that we have to learn. The second equation is we have to find out AS2S3. Okay, we have to not find out, we have to obtain that. So for that, AS2O3 plus 3H2S is added, and that would result in the formation of AS2S2 plus 3H2O. This is a double displacement reaction. Okay, and then over here, SO plus 2H2S gives 3S plus 3H2O. Okay. So the third one is SO2 plus 2H2S would give 3S plus H2O. So this is a reaction where oxidation takes place. We don't consider SO2, but we consider this. Okay. So this is -2 to 0. Oxidation. So this is an oxidation reaction. Okay. And this one is, let's see, 2AuCl3 plus 3HCHO plus 3H2O would give rise to 2Au plus 3HCOH plus 6HCl. Okay. So the next one is the preparation of gold salt. So let's see that. That is 2AuCl3 plus 3HCHO plus 3H2O would give rise to 2Au plus 3HCOOH plus 6HCl. So this is for aldehyde. And this is formic acid. Okay. This is formic acid. So these are the two things. You have acquired Au. This is by reduction reaction. So this is the reduction reaction. Okay. This is all about the the obtaining or the preparation of colloids. Now we have to learn about filtration or purification of colloids. Let's see the purification of colloids. Discussing about purification. So purification has 3 methods. Okay. Okay, why do you need purification of a colloid? Colloid to be stable only require traces of electrolytes. When the electrolyte is in excess, they will coagulate. So to remove that, electrolytes, you need purification methods. So if you remove the electrolytes, then what is remaining? That is the colloidal particles. Okay. So let's see. There are 3 methods. So the first one that we have to learn is ultrafiltration. Second one is dialysis. Third one is electrodialysis. Okay. So first we'll learn about ultrafiltration in detail. So let's see. So you know that what is filtration? Filtration is something that removes the unwanted particle. So ultrafiltration. So we know that colloidal particles are actually between 1 nanometer to 1000 nanometer. You know the particle size. So for a filter paper has its pores bigger than that of the colloidal size. So what will happen? The colloid with the electrolyte will fall down through the filter paper. So therefore there is a special filter paper used, that is graded filter paper. So we use a better filter paper. I will tell you how you make that filter paper. So to make it, what you have to do is to take a normal filter paper, the Sada filter paper, and then what you do, that filter paper is dipped in the colloidal solution. and that dipped filter paper is again dipped in formaldehyde and it is hardened. Why is it dipped to become hard? It is hardened and dried and then it is used. That is known as a graded filter paper or ultra filters. So let us see how it works. So it is the same as the normal working of normal filter papers itself, but I just draw the rough sketch. So this is the funnel and this is the neck of the funnel, this is the jar, and here is our filter paper. This is the graded filter paper. When the colloidal solutions are poured into it, what will happen? The electrolytes will fall off. Okay? And these colloidal particles would settle over here. And so, after fully the solution is or the colloid is poured inside, then take the filter paper and then scratch out the particles. Okay? Scratch out the dispersed phase and then mix it with the newly prepared dispersion medium. Okay? So, you got the dispersion phase and now it's easy, you make a dispersion medium and mix it too. So, you will get the dispersion phase. Sorry, you will get the colloid. So, the next method is dialysis. So, let's learn about dialysis. Okay? So, the one is dialysis. So, over here, the apparatus used is known as dialyzer. Okay? This is the apparatus and I will tell you. And this is actually a membrane. A membrane that is either made up of animal tissues or animal membrane, that is the membrane of our inner bodies or intestines, and then or else it can be parchment paper or it can be cellophane sheets, etc. So let's learn about this. So over here you know that what a colloid, to be stable it should have the colloidal particles the electrolytes are also known as crystalloids, and we know these crystalloids are what are unwanted particles. So what you will do, you will take a membrane, and we said it's an animal membrane or a parchment paper or a cellophane sheet, anything, a membrane. Inside that these two things together, the whole colloidal solution is kept. Okay, that membrane is in a tank where water is continuously supplied, and over here there is an opening for the water and the crystalloid or what do you call it, electrolyte, to move out. So I'll tell you what happens when water is moving inside. When the water moves inside, these particles, this is actually a semi-permeable membrane. So through the semi-permeable membrane, the colloidal particles cannot move out. The small electrolyte particles can only move out. So what happens is, let's make this to be this is smaller, no? So this is our electrolytic particles, and let this be our colloidal particles. So now we know that when water is flushed in, there happens diffusion, and these crystalloids or electrolytes will move out. And these water, it's continuously moving. The water is continuously moving, so these will move out. Okay, along with water. So what would we get? We will get the true or the pure colloidal solution inside the membrane. Okay. So this is what is our the process called dialysis, and this is a very slow process. So to fasten it, electricity is passed through, and that is how our third method of purification comes. That is electrodialysis. Let's see that also. Electrodialysis. So that is very similar to our normal dialysis. The only thing is there is electric current passing through it. This is the there are two like anode and cathode. There is electricity passing through. This is anode and this is cathode. Okay, what happens here is, when you know electrolyte particles are, electrolytes have both the ions, positive and negative. So when they what will happen, the positive parts would move to this side, the positive will move to this side and the negative will move to this side. So this diffusion process is too slow, this is very quick. So these particles would move out, the positive particles will move out, the negative particles will move out, and then this will be washed out by the water. So what is the conclusion? This process is just made fast by the use of the electricity. Okay. So that is all to talk about what is the processes of purification of colloids. Now we have to learn about the properties of colloids. Let's see that. So to talk about properties, we have to learn about 6 properties. Okay, there are 6 properties of colloids. So we'll learn all of those. So the first one is charge on a colloid. The second one is colligative properties. The third one is color. The fourth one is Brownian movement. The fifth one is electrophoresis. And the sixth one is Tyndall effect. So we will first discuss about the charge. Okay? So let's discuss about the charge in detail. So charge on a colloid. A colloid has electrical charges, positive and negative electrical charges, because of the preferential adsorption or selective adsorption. In peptidization we learned about it. So how does this happen? We'll take an example. We'll take an example of AgI plus Ki. If Ki is in excess, okay? Ki is in excess. So what is the common ion over here? We said common ion only gets adsorbed in the case when we studied about peptidization. So over here, let's see which is the common ion, I. So what is the charge on I? I is negative. So what is it? That is AgI negative. This is what, okay? For example, let's take AgI itself, or let's take it as, AgI plus AgNO3. Okay, what is the common one? Ag. So what would be the colloidal particle, that is AgI, and this is NO3 is, sorry, not NO3, Ag is plus. Okay, so this is plus, and this is a positive colloid. So we learned there are 2 types of colloids. Now we have to learn about something, that is Helmholtz double layer or electrical double layer formation. So let's see what is that. We take the same example of AgI plus Ki, and Ki is in excess. Okay. So what will happen? That is, this would get adsorbed. So where is the K going? That would be written as, we know that AgI slash what? I minus. Is that what we get? And this AgI slash I minus, and in the vicinity there is K plus. Okay? We'll draw it. The double layer structure will look like this. I will draw it. So we know AgI has a charge surrounding, a negative charge surrounding it. So we'll draw AgI. And over here, this I is on the, it's adsorbed, no? So over here. As I minus, full, it's surrounded by I minus, okay? So, and then the K plus is in the vicinity. The K plus will not go anywhere. It is there in the vicinity itself. So now we know that what this is around it. Oh, and this is the layer that is bond. There is a bond between AgI and I minus. So this is the adsorbed ion, and this is the counter ion. Okay. And then to talk about it, let's see the next case when it is not when the other one AgNO3 is in excess. And I forgot to mention there is something known as that there would be some difference because this is two layers. There is a gap in between. There is two layers. The difference between the adsorbed layer and the counter layer, or this is the stable layer and the unstable layer, is called as the zeta potential. Zeta potential. Okay. So the Brownian movement. Okay, what is a Brownian movement? The continuous zigzag motion of the dp particles. Why is there a continuous zigzag motion? That is because of the bombardment of dp with dm. Okay, and this Brownian movement has a stirring effect. What do you mean by mixing effect? That is why these colloidal particles does not settle under gravity. That is, actually Brownian movement is a property which allows colloidal particles to be stable. Okay, so this is Brownian movement. So to talk about the bombardment, if the Brownian movement is faster. Okay, the Brownian movement is faster when the particle size, okay, is low and the viscosity of the colloid is also low. Then the bombardment would be like when it's small particles, it will move faster and it will hit each other. So there is more of stirring effect. Okay, so that is to talk about bombarding. Talk about Brownian movement. And next we'll learn about what Tyndall effect. So Tyndall effect. So Tyndall effect is the scattering of light when light is passed through a colloidal solution, it will get scattered. Okay, that means the light shows its path. Okay, that is the meaning of Tyndall effect. So this scattered light, if this is the incident ray, then what will happen? When you look from 90-degree angle, okay, when you look from 90-degree angle, the light that is dispersed would have a blue color light. Blue color. That is known as opalescence. Okay, there is opalescence. The next thing is the conditions for Tyndall effect. So the conditions are, the first one is about the refractive index of dp and dm. That should be the refractive index should differ greatly. Okay, and the second point is about the dp's radius. Now the radius of the dp particle should be comparable to the wavelength of the light. So these are the two conditions. And also I told you about this opalescence. Opalescence is usually in the shape of a cone. Okay, because it looks like this. It's in the shape of a cone. I'll show you. It scatters and it looks like this in the shape of a cone. And this is why this is also called as Tyndall cone. Okay. So this is about Tyndall effect. Now we learn about the color. So the next property is color. So to talk about color, how does the color of a colloid is seen? The color of a colloid is when the light is falling on a colloid, that particular light, the wavelength of light is absorbed and its complementary wavelength is emitted or reflected back. So if violet ray comes and fall, then it will emit as green. If green comes and fall, it will be violet. If blue light comes, it will become orange. Orange light comes, it will become blue. Yellow light comes, it becomes red. Red comes, it becomes blue. That is complementary colors show up. In our textbook, we have to learn about gold soul. How the gold soul has the golden color, or what is the color of the gold soul. So for gold soul, when the particles are fine, very very small, it shows red color. When the particle size increases, it changes to purple and then to blue. Okay, this is the change. Learn this: red, purple, blue. This is when size increases, okay, towards this direction, from smaller to big. This is the small, this is the big. When it's bigger, it's becoming blue. So this is the talk about color. So the next property is colligative property. So we learned that colligative property is dependent upon the number of particles, okay, number of particles present. So as the number of particles increases, colligative property decreases, okay. This is particles and this is colligative property. So for example, when you take that of a true solution, for a true solution, what is it? The particle size is small. So there is lot of particles in the solution. So therefore, what is it? There is more density of the particle, okay, and results in more colligative property. But whereas in the case of our colloids, the particles are big, and therefore it's low colligative property. And this low colligative property, it's so low that it cannot be measured. Only the colligative property of osmotic pressure can be measured in the case of colloids having colligative property. And now we have reached the last topic, that is, this is electrophoresis. So when the dp particles, the colloidal particles, are moving in the direction of an applied electrical field, that process is called as electrophoresis. This destroys the stability of the colloid, and hence it will be not a colloid, okay. So that is what is electrophoresis. It is used for what? Finding out the nature of charge. Over here there is that you can see two platinum rods are dipped in the colloidal solutions and this connected externally, and the electricity is passed. So when this is if the colloidal particles have positive character, it will move to the negative side. If the colloidal particles have negative character, it will move to the positive side. So this is what is electrophoresis. So that's all for today's video. I hope you might have liked it. If you have liked it, please do give a huge thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you are new to it. And also share my videos to your other friends. So see you on my next video. Till then, bye bye.